Hey everyone, I'm Brian, and this video is part 2 of my series where I'm reviewing my older projects from back when I started my channel. So if you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a link in the description and I'll make a playlist for this too. But this video is going to focus on my 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th projects I made last year. So this project used to be like my snowy river scene. It was made from another plastic raft with some texture paste on it, but I originally had it as like this little snowy cave with a river of icy water coming out of it, but I didn't really like that, and I was just experimenting, so this was like my first winter snow kind of scene. So I ended up repurposing it into this with like this frozen monolith here. And I'll talk about what this is when I actually get to this specific project later in my video series. But yeah, for my first attempt making a bright white snowy river diorama scene, I didn't really like it, so that's why I ended up reusing it. My next project was kind of basic, and this is just a little crafty terrain tree that I made. It's just a wood disc with a toothpick that's covered in hot glue, and then some just kitchen sponge ripped up and glued to the outside. I've made dozens of these over the years, and unfortunately I haven't made any more recently because the brand of sponges that I used to be able to get them at dollar stores, and they were like really cheap. They came in a bunch of colors like pink, yellow, green, and like light blue. But I haven't seen them in stores in a couple of years. So what I had to make this and some of the other ones, they were just left over my crafting box. And I've tried using other sponges, but the texture just isn't right. So for this, it's just like a really light, fluffy texture, and all the other kinds of sponges I found are this really rough, gritty stuff for actual, cleaning. But these worked out the best, and I'm really disappointed I can't get these sponges anymore, at least not anywhere in my area. But yeah, so my video showing how I made this, I think I also showed a bunch of my older trees that I made from years past. But yeah, this was just a little basic project, and I ended up getting like a lot of views on this video. So I think this is the first video I had that passed 50 views. So I'm like, wow, that was like a lot of people just watching me make a tiny little sponge tree. Hey, this is Editing Brian here. My microphone disconnected while I was recording this part, so I'm recording a separate voiceover instead. This was my burnt field project, and it was my first video to pass 100 views, although it was, at the time, the shortest video I had published at just under 3 minutes. I was inspired to make this after I saw a small wildfire on the side of the road as I was driving home from work, and fortunately first responders were already on the scene taking care of it. I was surprised that this video got so many views because it was one of my more basic projects, kind of like my grassy field, and all I really did was put some model scenery flocking on a plastic raft, and I just used some pigment powders to color it in different spots to make it look like the field was slightly burning. Now, this project really surprised me. This was just a tiny little pond. Basically, same thing I always did. Started with a plastic raft, put some hot glue on it, some of my terrain paste on here, and all I did was use just the tops of these little itty bitty tree supports from a Bamboo Lab 3D print, and a couple little tufts of scenery flocking, and then some glue in the center, or sort of the center, to make a little depression. And then I printed out a tiny little frog and then put it in the scene. And this project and the video got over 300 views. And for the longest time, this was the video that had the most views on my channel. And I couldn't figure it out. It's like, why is this getting so many views? And it's like, it's just a really tiny little basic nothing. I don't know. I mean, just like the burnt field project, it's like, okay, well, it looks like my channel's growing, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, is this going to keep going, or is it just like, how are people finding my videos, right? So, I mean, looking at the analytics, it really seemed like YouTube was just pushing them out to like random people. And I don't know if I'm going to get to it in this video, but I'll talk about it at least at some point in this series about the analytics and how my videos are reaching viewers. Okay, this is another project that I was a little bit disappointed in. This one, I originally called it like a miniature ditch, but I thought that sounded really dumb, so I changed it to like miniature grotto, I guess. And the video for this project didn't do as well as the previous two, but people were still watching it. And what I did here is I made like this, well, it's sort of like another little creek scene, but with terrain paste kind of scattered around to like these little islands, and then the green grassy scenery flocking scattered around. But I used these dyed popsicle sticks to make the remains of like a broken bridge. So what I did for these is I cut up and ripped up a bunch of regular popsicle sticks. I put them in a jar of water with like paint and food coloring in it, and I left it to sit in there. I don't remember how long I left it in there, but the pigment soaked into the wood, and it turned it this like brownish, reddish, moldy green color, and I really liked it. So actually, these came from another project I was going to work on but never got around to. And then these little posts right here are just bits of toothpick that I put in the same paint and food coloring solution. So when I finished it, I mean, I thought it's okay, but I thought I could probably do a little bit more to it. And, you know, I kind of regret using these wood planks here because I spent a lot of time making them, and to me, they seem a little bit wasted on this, but yeah, I'd only been doing YouTube videos for a couple of months, so it was, again, another kind of experiment. Oh, and the water here is just the same thing, PVA glue with food, actually a little too much food coloring in here. That's why it's a really dark blue. I think that's what kind of threw me off too. It's like, it should have been a lighter color, and I keep making that mistake in other videos where I use too much food coloring and it turns a really, really dark blue. But yeah, I plan to reuse this for another project at some point in the future, but I haven't really thought of the idea yet. All right, well, that's all I have for this set of projects. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to be making a series of these videos talking about all of my projects I've made so far on my channel, starting with the oldest ones. And I'll have links and a playlist set up so you can watch the series. And I'm gonna plan on posting these videos every few days instead of like once a week like my usual schedule, but I haven't really figured out when that's gonna happen yet. So thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in for the other videos in the series.